Welcome to part 4 of the 300 blackout from start to finish conversion. I'm going to be showing you some tools we're going to be working with. We're going to need some digital calipers. I got these. These are by Nico. I got these online for I think like 13 bucks, free shipping. Very nice. You do have to re-zero them occasionally. You're going to need these little plastic blocks that I've made. I made them by just putting 2 pieces of plastic together and then drilling out the center and then kind of expanding this side by just putting it in the vise and squeezing down really hard. The plastic's pretty malleable. We're going to need a Lee number 4 shell holder, which we already used, so you should have one of these. We will need a Lehman case holder, and you can get these in the Lehman trim set, but I've since moved on from that set. But this is still a very, very useful tool. You can get this in the Easy Trim kit. And you can actually do this with the Easy Trim, but the pilots are very brittle and they break very often. And they're $7 each, which is not a huge deal. And you can make probably like 1,000 cases per trimmer pilot or more. But the blades also get dull quick too. So we're going to need the Little Crow Gunworks World's Finest Trimmer. This is specifically for 300 blackout. And as you notice, they have 2 set screws here. That's for the height adjustment of the drill bit. So we also need a deburr and chamfer tool. This is one made by Lee. It's the cheapest tool, and you can also use this to sorry for the blurriness. You can also use this for removing crimps from the primer pocket. And we're going to need a drill. This is a DeWalt drill. This is a nice drill. You need a drill with a chuck. I just bumped the camera, I apologize. But you need a drill with a chuck. In case you don't know what a chuck is, this is a chuck. The kind that has sort of an infinitely adjustable opening, to a certain degree. And it does not need to be 20 volts or anything like that or anything fancy. Just needs to be a drill with a chuck. And before we get started, I did want to show you. I found that case. I kept it. It's my only case with the neck. I don't know if you can see it. That cracked. What it looks like, or what to look for when you're sorting through your brass to make sure that you don't get a neck split, and then get it stuck in your chamber. Anyway, so we are going to use this is an unfired Remington UMC 300 blackout cartridge, fully complete. And what we can do is go and fire this in your gun and use the case. All right, so this is not the same case. This is actually one I've already made, but we can use that to set the height, the depth that we're going to be needing to go to. So we want to loosen up these screws. And the reason why I'm putting this in the video is because some people might trim a bunch of brass thinking that the factory set this up perfectly for what it needs to be, which is not the case. It comes with the bit fully in, and you need to change that. So you want to put the case in, and you want to press it until the shoulders, the shoulders touch right there. And then you want to hold that in place, and then seat your bit up against it. At this point, you want to hold it kind of like this, keeping pressure, a little bit of pressure on this shoulder right here with your middle finger. And then you want to lightly tighten both sides up. And I want to keep it light until we get the proper measurement, right? So you do want to measure, first of all. You want it to be roughly around here, like, because your case may vary, or your calipers may vary. Roughly around there. I think 1.36 is the normal case length. Anyway, now you want to tighten up your screws because you're going to be cutting with it. Now we want to set up our Leman case holder. So we want to just unscrew it till this the shaft here is fully down. We want to insert our shell holder, and then we're going to be screwing it back here, and then we want to make sure that's aligned in the center all the way to right there. And set that aside. Now we want to put our little plastic guides in place. And actually we need to put this on here first. So we want it to look like that, kind of. Okay, and then unscrew our vise a little bit. And we want to tighten it down. And we want it to be tight all the way at the end. So you want it to be flush right here and right here. And that's for some reasons I'll get into later. But you want to tighten it down pretty good. Doesn't need to be crazy tight because the knurling will help hold it in place. You want to make sure that you can tighten it all the way down. So you want to look at the seam right here, in between the two knurled portions. You want to make sure that it can be all the way down, which you can. Now you want to put your shell holder in the up position. I mean, you can do it in any position you want, but that's what I prefer. We want to take a piece of untrimmed brass. Get a handful here. This is the brass that we made in a previous video. Okay, so and you do notice that we do have these little chunks from our cutting process that we did. So keep that in mind when we're cutting. We want to tighten this down pretty decently snug. I want to chuck up our world's finest trimmer in our drill. And we do want to confirm it's locked in there, and that when it spins without wobble. That's pretty good. Now, before we kind of, let me adjust the camera here. Before we kind of, go full bore and kind of start pressing on this thing. That's good enough. Sorry it's so wobbly. Before we go full bore, start pressing, we want to lightly get that little burr off there first, right? So I'm gonna slowly go. Now that we've gotten past it, now we can start going faster. Now you'll notice that this little sleeve here, it has a bearing, so it'll stop while this still spins, and that's one of your indications. Once it discontinues going further, and once that stops, that's an indication that you have a completely sized case. And you want to blow out the brass shavings, and then before we chamfer and deburr it, we want to confirm with our digital calipers or whatever calipers that you have that we're close to our target size. That's a little bit smaller than I wanted it. It's a little bit smaller, so I would make an adjustment, and I'm not going to do that on video because I'm not going to waste you guys' time. But make the adjustment to where it's right where you want it. Anyway, so our next step after we have our proper length that we're looking for, this will fire. This will fire no problem. Anyway, we're gonna take our deburr and chamfer tool and do a couple turns. You want to be pretty. You want to press firmly with this particular tool. This is the Lee deburr and chamfer tool. You want to press pretty firmly and grip onto it solidly and do complete turns, right? You don't want to go back and forth because there's only the cutting, it only cuts one direction. So you don't need to do this. This is going to make a sloppy mess. And then same thing with when you're inside the neck. Don't press it as hard. And you can just do once with that. I found out it works great if you just do one turn. Unless you have a really stubborn piece of brass or the brass is really hard or something weird. Anyway, this is what it should look like. Blow out the brass, nice and shiny, and that's ready to be belled and primed. You don't need to bell if you're not using cast projectiles, but I'm using it because I'm shooting for cheapness. So I'm using the cheapest projectiles I can find. If you're shooting for accuracy, most likely you're not going to need to bell out because you're going to be using a copper jacketed projectile. But that is a complete case. Let's do a couple more here just to show you. Do have like a bowl on the side, like for your completed brass to, so you can, tell one from the other. Let's load up another one. I haven't readjusted the tool, but I'll do that off camera. Again, slow at first, and then you can kind of finish it off. Leave it on the shell holder. Do a couple turns with the tool. Now, if you're not using this tool and you're using like one of the sort of more aggressive, like the Lehman kind, like where the prongs, jet out from it, you don't have to go so hard. Those are a little bit different of a tool, but if you're using the exact tool I'm using, I do recommend pressing relatively hard. And you can get into a pretty good rhythm. Like I can pump out like a lot of these an hour. But because I'm kind of taking the time to explain to you guys, it doesn't take this long, is what I'm trying to get at. Okay. So yeah. So from this video, I hope you gathered that it's very important to make adjustments to your tools before you start pumping it out, and to choose the right tools. And I know I'm kind of going ghetto on some of my tools, but I did initially try to go as cheap as possible, and it worked, and I got my money's worth. But eventually you're going to want to step it up to a better tool, which this is the world's finest trimmer. Okay, I did want to show that it's possible to do this without this setup, although it takes a lot more time and a lot more effort. But if you're just needing to make some brass, maybe just a little bit, and maybe you just don't have this set up just yet, and you're working on it or something, I don't know, you can actually just do it by hand. You probably need a pair of rubber gloves or some kind of glove to where you could hold on to it tightly, and you want to do it gently at first, just to kind of knock off that portion, that little chunk. If you had a jig for your cutoff tool, your Harbor Freight saw, you wouldn't need to put in as much effort to getting this started. But I just wanted to show you that it is possible. Okay, and that's it. Just to show you. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video, and stay tuned for part 5.